I promise we're going to return to doing more art as well as doing more level design, but I want this class to be more practical than just theoretical. So I want to talk a little bit about, programming contexts and then how we use those programming contexts to drive level design. So for example, like how would you program a light and then use that light to drive the player's attention? So with that, we need to kind of dive, at least for the next several lessons, more into blueprints, and I promise you we'll return to level design as well as art. So let's start off by talking about arrays, which is essentially one of my favorite data structures. And the way that we want to think about an array, or what is an array essentially, is an array is a way to store multiple pieces of data at the same type in a single variable. So instead of creating many separate variable types like this, we have integer score 1 equals 10, integer score 2 equals 20, integer score 3 equals 30. You can easily just combine them into one array. So for example, we have all three values, 10, 20, 30, and they're stored in a single variable called scores. And the way that we access these values is in something called an index. So another way of thinking about this is you can think of an array like a row of lockers. Each locker holds one item. Here you could see this locker is holding 2, this locker is holding 4, and so on. And each number within its locker can be easily found by using its index below. 0 for 2, 1 for 4. Again, don't worry if this feels like word salad. We're going to be programming this in a second. All right, here we are in Unreal. And if we take a look at our project, you can see that we just have this BP fun, we have a level, and then this is our BP fun blueprint. And what we looked at last time was just a little bit about, kind of doing some basic math and stuff. And also earlier in this video, we talked a little bit about the theory behind what an array is. So let's go ahead and dive in and, make our first array. All right, so down in our variable sections here, you can either create a new array or we'll just use one that we already have. So for example, health here. And if I select it, we have in our details panel essentially the name of our variable, the variable type, it's integer, and then you have this little drop down here. So I click on that drop down, you'll see single and you'll see array. So if I go ahead and click on array here for health, you can see now it has a description and it gives us this little box with a bunch of boxes indicating that it's an array. So let's compile and save this. And in the right hand corner now, you'll see that our default value has changed. Instead of health, it says 0 array element. Remember I was talking about each element has an index. So this is box 0. So if I click plus here, you could see that it added under index 0 here, the value 0. And if I click plus, I can add under index 1, maybe the value 10. What's also kind of neat is that in the side here, if you click this little arrow, you can see there's an insert, delete, and duplicate. I can insert an element between these, change the value. I can also duplicate that, and I can also delete it. Also, when you drag out an integer, for example, here's health. I'll get my health here, and then I drag my poison. You'll notice something when you look at the two different variables. All right, so let's say we want to get a element. Remember we talked about these indexes from our array. So we have 0, 1, 2. Say I want to get the value 15 here. I can drag this out and I can type get and then ref, and I can wire this. Let's go ahead and delete this pickup and poison here, and I can wire this right inside of here. So you can see here it says 0, right? And so 0 is referencing 0. So let's say we change this to a 1. Well, let's see what happens. So compile and save that, press play. You can see now we get 15 to the screen. So we're getting a reference. These are, you can think of these almost as addresses. This is the address 0 to the house, right? And the people who live there is the number 0 lives there, or the number 15 lives there. So you can think of this as almost an address to something. All right, so let's say we want to not have to hardwire this element, right? We want to be able to get the different indexes at different times. Well, we can always make another variable, and I can call this variable, index, and I can make it instance editable as well as expose on spawn, and I can drag this in here, get index, and I can, let's make sure this is not an array, it's a single, and we'll change the variable type and wire this in here. So we'll compile and save this. Now let's go back to our level here, and if we look at our level blueprint, so let me go ahead and do open level blueprint here. Remember we had the spawn class, and now we have, we have the spawn BP actor fun, right? And within this, we have collision handling, pickup, has help, instigator. So let's see. And BP fun. Here's BP fun, and here's our index. Expose on spawn. It looks like we have an error. Let's see what that is. Oh, but not marked as instance editable. Please make sure it instance editable. So let's uncheck that. Let's just do compile and save. Let's see. Oh, we're looking at our index here. And I believe health also, let's see. Oh no, I had it. I had it as both. I'm not sure why. Let's see, save and. All right, so for me, I had to actually uncheck both of those, compile and save it, and then do instance editable first, compile and save it. I doubt you'll have to do this, and then check expose on spawn and compile and save that in order to get it to work. So now back in our BP level, just wanted to show you this. If I drag my BP fun into the scene, you can see I have a, let's see, in a default under default index 0. So if I press play, you can see that equals 0. And if I change this index to 3, I press play. Nope, I don't think I have a 3. I actually have a 2 because it starts at 0. Let's press play here. I get a 10. And so let's take a look just to reiterate that. But if I look at my health here, 0, 1, 2, it is 10. And I'm using this index variable, which is instable and expose on spawn, to use that variable to get the value. So it's kind of like just a way of controlling the index or checking an index, which you might do to check an inventory system or something like that. All right, so let's try something different. Instead of just getting the index of an array, what if we want to find something that's inside of an array? Let's go ahead and delete this. And let's use a string as an example. So here we have world, right? And let's rename this inventory. And let's change it to an array. And let's compile and save this. And let's drag this guy out. Get inventory. And then I'm going to drag out from here. I'm going to type find. So this is going to find an item by a specific name. So inside of our inventory, we have a apple. And we have a sword. And we have a, I don't know, a potion. So say we want to find the apple. What we can do is we can type in item name for another string. And then this one, we're going to just make it a regular string instead of an array. And let's compile and save that. And then I can drag this in here and then get this and then wire that in. So let's say we want to find out, well, where is the apple located inside of our inventory? Well, we know it's at index 0. So let's compile and save this, and let's press play here. And you can see we get 0 here. And that 0 is relating to, it's finding the index of where the item is in the inventory, which is important because there's times we have to search through an entire inventory trying to find something. So let's see, let's change this to sword, just to kind of reiterate the point. And it should give us 1. And you can see we get 1 here, which is great. And in all honesty, you know, yeah, I think that's good. And because we have it running through our scene as well as in here, it's going to print twice. So I think this video is getting pretty long, and what we'll do is in the next video, we'll continue to work on arrays, and then we'll jump back over to looking at how we can texture essentially our building inside of Unreal, you know, our house, how we can create some pretty basic textures using a program called Photopea, which is kind of like an online Photoshop.